Is Mazda now really the Japanese BMW? Can they challenge BMW with their new SUV lineup? CX60, 70, 80, 90? We'll find out here in a comparison test. Mazda CX60 versus BMW X3 with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the design of the new Mazda SUVs. CX60 and 80 for the European market, CX70 and CX90 for the American market. They're all somewhat similar. Depends then how much seats you have on the inside, and the American models are a little bit bigger. Here in the front we can see more like the Audi single frame grille in the styling, but I think very beautiful and clean. Vertical black fins inside. This is also one of the top trim models. Daytime running light is basically split in two. And on the BMW X3 side, we have both invited today to have the best comparison, so to speak. Here we have the typical BMW double kidney. Since the facelift, also a little bit changed here with the headlamps, for example. New daytime running light, and this the M Sport Pack here with more black accentuation. So black and white, the scheme definitely for the front. Which one is more beautiful to you? I think both did a good job in the design. What's your take? Turning indicators, both cool in their own way. Here BMW replaced the daytime running light. Here also somewhat the same for the Mazda, but on the inside. And here you have this pulsing effect like a heartbeat. As for the length comparison, 4.75 m or 187 inches for the Mazda CX60. You can also see a more roundish design here at the side, no hard edges or something. We have 20-inch wheels here, 18 to 20 inch, so these are the biggest ones. And then with the BMW, here almost the same length, is around 4 centimeters or 2 inches shorter, and the wheelbase is also more or less the same. And we also have 20-inch wheels mounted here. Also starts at 18-inch, so some similarities, especially for the whole dimension. Design-wise, of course, the BMW looks a little bit more aggressive here already in the side profile. And suspension-wise, it's also interesting. Here the BMW just offers a little bit more. Of course, also more in pricing. So you get an adaptive suspension with the BMW that's not available with the Mazda CX60. In the rear we can see the BMW has a more rectangular design, more three-dimensional tail lamps since the facelift, and real exhaust tips here. Once again, M Sport Pack with a black accentuation, and the Mazda CX60 here also with very cool design of the tail lamp with that signature. A little bit more roundish, this whole design. In the lower part also black contrast, and then fake exhaust alert from the Autogefühl fake exhaust police. Turning indicators pretty coolly with the BMW, also very wide. With the Mazda also interesting, but I think it's just too small, isn't it? Let's move to the interior and start with the key fob comparison. They both look decent, definitely. The BMW from the build quality better. The Mazda key starts already to fall apart here a little bit. Then door closing sound. Ooh, that's not good at all, indeed. And also, like, you know, when you let these ones snatch and so on, so they didn't pay too much attention to that. However, at the inside of the doors, wow, this is the bright interior. You can also get a dark interior if possible. Top part is quite hard, but not super hard. That's okay. And well, this may be splits opinion, but I love that styling. Here's a really soft and also this cool white or very bright fabric. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Also here, the attention to detail and the love in the interior. Sporty steering wheel, real buttons, for example for the volume, and they also give you a good haptic feedback indeed. The seats, only animal skin in the higher trims, but you can also get base fabric seats. In the US, it's a little bit different for the models. There you have more leatherette offerings, for example. However, here the seat material is actually quite stiff. Let's take a seat. And the problem is they don't offer side support at all. And that was even better in the CX5, for example. And when you just sit statically in it, it's fine, you know. But again, the material is hard, and while driving, you slide around too much. Then headroom with 189, 6'2", some headroom left. However, this is the one here with the panoramic roof. So that costs, of course, some headroom, but it's still fine and for 12 people. This one, by the way, a roof you can actually really open. It's actually very, very wide. Actually. Interior cockpit overview, Mazda CX60. Wow, look at that. It's just so lovely here. The matte wood, then the bright fabric. So much attention to detail and really fun and love while building this interior. I just love it. At the same time, you have good user interface with manual buttons everywhere, still the real stuff, and it feels really good. I especially appreciate the buttons that are easily accessible here for the heated seats, heated steering wheel and the cooled seats. Digital instruments, clear to read, and they also change according to the driving mode. It takes a while, so there you have to wait for it, or for example if you go to the sport mode, wait for it a little bit with a visualization, and there we go. And you also get a proper head-up display. Classic shifting lever, pretty thick, secure. And then here you have this step logic, you have to go right first and then back and forth. Yeah, I prefer it in a little bit easier way because you have this unlock here at the back part anyway. You can control the infotainment system here from below, and also nice clicking sound. Reduce and easy layout of the Mazda infotainment. To me that's absolutely fine, and most of the time you will use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and then you can also use it as a touchscreen, just not in the Mazda menu. However, now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, they made it standard that you can also control it while driving, so you don't have to activate that anymore. It's just that the standard Mazda infotainment system can only be controlled from below. Rear seats of the CX-5. What's cool is that they open super wide, almost 90 degrees, easy for the child seat access. Then, for example, you have ISOFIX at the outsides each. However, there's one drawback, and that is the rear legroom. So hardly any space here. I do hit the knees on the back on the seat here when I'm driving as a tall driver. So legroom is not a thing here. Yeah, that will be better than in the other model like the CX80, for example, or CX90 in the US. However, once again, the inside of the door and the rear, that looks beautiful. And that's actually quite cool also from the build quality. And headroom in the rear is also fine. I can still put a hand over my head. So the comfort in the rear is quite okay. It's just that the legroom is not that much. Rear doors in the X3 don't open as wide as in the Mazda, so harder to install child seats and so on. And in this case in the all black interior, but there are also different colors available for the interior of the X3. Let's see about the legroom. So the seats have this recess here, and indeed my knees fit here. It's not that there's abundance of legroom, but definitely more legroom than in the CX60, and headroom a little bit more, I would say. The seating comfort itself is comparable, but definitely the legroom is the crucial factor here. Compare the BMW front and cockpit and stuff. Door closing. That's better actually, as for the door closing sound. Inside of the doors, also nicely done, a little bit less spectacular than with the Mazda. And also the cockpit is a little bit more conservative, I would say, but both use haptic feedback here, real buttons. I like that classic layout with both vehicles. Then the SensaTech seats, so this man-made leather, it's softer, actually better in the quality than the Mazda, and also the side bolsters here are like underneath the surface are better in comfort. At the same time, there are side bolsters, so you're being kept tighter by the seat, and that is more comfort, especially while driving. Headroom is a little bit more here, but that's also the one without the panoramic roof, so that's not very well comparable in that case then. Interior cockpit overview of the X3, I would say a little bit more drawn back in comparison to the Mazda, but also appreciate good user interface, real buttons here, climate unit, also for the volume jog and so on, and also at the steering wheel. So from controlling everything, both are very nice, I feel. You also have the lower control knob to control the infotainment system, but you can also control the BMW internal system via touch. You can also go for the Apple CarPlay or the Android Auto, and both vehicles also offer wireless support for that. Classic BMW shifting lever, easy solution, and gives you this, classic racy feeling. Digital instruments on left side speed, right side RPM, and they also switch a little bit according to the driving mode. Oh, now the engine goes on. And you can also see the driving modes actually in the head-up display. For example, the sports mode gets this additional RPM meter. As for the trunk comparison, let's open them with the keys. Let's see which one is quicker. Yeah, comparable, isn't it? But what's not comparable is that the Mazda here, with 570 liters, indeed has the bigger trunk. Here more than 1 meter or 40 inches in width, way more. I mean, it's like 110 or 43 inches, and the length here is a little bit less than 1 meter or 40 inches. So really spacious here, even in the plug-in hybrid version. Cable can be fitted underneath. Oh, need to clean that one up here. So really cool also here with this, retractable cover that automatically folds in and out, and we can also fold the seats quite easily right here. The only thing is that you can see here that they fold flat. The front seats need to be way more in the front, so there's not much space for the seats to fold. Interesting. Then the BMW X3, 450 liters, so way less, and it's mainly here because of the length. It's only about 85 centimeters or 33 inches, so the Mazda trunk goes like till here, so that's the thing. This step here for the plug-in hybrid, and then underneath there's hardly any more space, and the width is actually quite good. It's also like 110 or 43 inches, but the difference is really that the Mazda has the longer trunk. It's also a little bit longer on the exterior, but better solution here. The only thing that works better here is that when you fold the seats, well, you have to grab over, but then they directly fold flat even if tall drivers are driving. One example of a quality difference you can see, feel and hear is actually here when you use the window levers. You hear like the first like a bam, it really sets in, and the whole door is shaking here with the Mazda. Bang, and it's not see as with the BMW. Here, the door is not shaking as much, and like the first step you hear then, so when you put it up and then here, it just starts in a smoother way, you know what I mean? I always pay attention to these details, but the big question is, would that matter to you? Are you looking out for those details? Tell me in the comments. As for engines, 4 or 6 cylinders, BMW, 2-liter 4-cylinder or 3-liter 6-cylinder, the Mazda 2.5-liter 4-cylinder for the plug-in hybrid, or then the 6-cylinder petrol and diesel, in Europe 3-liter petrol, in the US 3.3-liter petrol, and the diesel is also at 3.3 liters of displacement. So Mazda goes a little bit more for displacement, whereas BMW also offers a higher performance version, for example X3M and so on. And the plug-in hybrids, which we have here today, there the Mazda has a little bit bigger battery. So we have the figures 11 kilowatt hours, but that's net. 18 kilowatt hours figures, that's the gross figure. So there's a buffer. So it will have a little bit more electric range, like 50 kilometers, 30 miles, whereas the BMW is at 40 kilometers or 25 miles. Welcome to Thomas's Comparison Driving Lounge, starting with the Mazda. And we do an acceleration from 50 kilometers an hour with both drivetrains. Let's go. Plop, that's 150 kilometers an hour. Wow, pretty quick. Oh, that truck is giving us some serious black steam out there. Whoa. Yeah, that was quite decent, and indeed is a little bit quicker than the BMW, 5.8 seconds versus 6.1 seconds here in the plug-in hybrid drivetrains, if you compare those. And when we're already at speed, what about like the higher speed regions? Let's see, from 130. 150, 60, 180, and here now at higher speeds, lane changes, quite stable on the road, 20-inch wheels mounted, but now quite loud indeed, so at very, very high speeds, it seems to be a little bit louder. But of course, that's totally a German thing, so most normal highway speeds will of course be way lower, and there the noise insulation is actually quite decent at normal speeds, so to speak. Let's go to 130 kilometers an hour, where it's actually pretty relaxed, you know. And here in the German Autobahn, where we have unlimited speed, sometimes then you do overtake maneuvers, change the lane, and quite good engine sound, and it is indeed fun. So it doesn't shake up too much from the suspension. We don't have the sophisticated suspension with the adaptive function that we have in the BMW, so that's not available for the Mazda. So we're not as flexible, But I think they found actually a quite good setup for that. What you notice, especially in lane changes, is here the seats in the Mazda, they are more open. They're not laid out for sporty driving, and the whole vehicle concept also isn't set out for the sportiest drive overall. It doesn't have to be, but that could be one thing where the BMW still differentiates itself. But of course, we would directly drive the BMW after this driving part that we can really tell you something about it. But so far, it's actually very nice here on the German Autobahn. The only thing I do already notice is here worse noise insulation at higher speeds, because I know that actually from the X3, and I've also driven the X3 before here, and then I'll do it once more after that. We can really have a good comparison. But so far, steering here also pretty precise. I like that. No dead zone area. We know that Mazda gives us a very good feeling of the steering, and they also do good manual gearboxes, but of course a manual gearbox is not a thing of the CX60, 70, 80 or 90. That counts for all of their new big SUVs. And since they are all somewhat more or less comparable, also the comparisons here will also count for all of them. And it's definitely very interesting to do that. Running straight here now, here's a very good road. 20-inch wheels could be a problem then when the roads are bad. I had the CX60 in a test also with some worse roads before, and there I felt that I want to tell you, if you order one, don't go for the bigger wheels if you want more comfort. So especially because you don't have an adaptive suspension, the smaller wheels will actually do a better job. I personally love that bright interior also in the CX60, and it also gives me a very good mood, very good vibes also when driving the vehicle, not only when looking at that aesthetically. Still in the sport mode, by the way. Of course, we can also go back, for example, to the normal mode. Here then it's more about changing the styling in the instruments and also the throttle input, for example, or also how the EV mode is being used or not. For example, in the sport mode we always have both powertrains, and when we're on the normal mode, the car also more switches to the pure EV mode, especially when the battery is a little bit fuller. There's also one big differentiation point here, that the battery capacity here in the CX60 is a little bit larger than the one in the X3. So this one here will have a higher pure electric range, if that's then relevant to you. Now we do a motorway switch, switching the Autobahn. Once again, go to the sport mode. It's a very nice right-left combination here. Once again, you can see here a nice steering wheel input. Yeah, and now we feel also for the passenger. I'm not sure if you feel that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the seats don't give you so much support. So congestion zone ahead. Interesting. Congestions on ahead. Yeah, but maybe somehow the GPS. I haven't set the GPS, but someone told me that we have traffic oncoming or something. Interesting. So yeah, that's something you feel. The seats, they should give you a little bit more side support, and also don't feel that they would be too comfortable long term. When you sit in them directly, take a seat, they're like, oh, great seats, But when you're a little bit longer on them, then they lack a little bit support, and that can also be, giving you a little bit fatigue. One more acceleration. Yeah, the sound is really very nice, isn't it? Whoa! And now suspension, like this, bam! When there's like, some bumps in the road. Also from the sound, so there you feel it doesn't have this very sophisticated suspension. Nevertheless, we always have to keep in mind the price difference of a little bit less than 20,000 euros when we take the German concise prices here, for example. We always have to think about then, is it worth the money? The difference in suspension and maybe the noise insulation at the higher speeds and so on, because we're talking about a very nice vehicle. And what Mazda has done and what they also achieved is that they brought more premium experience to the vehicle. And you do feel it when driving that one. If you want the more, like the sportier driving feeling, this unity of driver, car and driver, Mazda calls this Jin by Itai. That's that unity of horse and rider. That's like, transported from that original Japanese saying. This is more the case in the CX-5, in their smaller SUV. Here in the CX-60, you more feel a little bit disconnected. in a way of you feel there's this comfort focus and not this unity focus. And I think it's okay, but if you seek more driving fun, then it is the CX-5 for you when you want to keep it Mazda internally. That's also a very interesting thing to know, definitely. But it's really in a direct comparison, it is still fun to drive the CX60. So what's the passenger perspective? X3, CX60, first impression, difference in driving? What do you think? Distracted driver detected. So I look, yeah, okay, busted. Yeah, I looked at her and the car directly tells me, don't look at the girl, you're distracted. Damn it, Mazda. Yeah. Okay, let's, yeah, now this the beeping because I'm off the lane. Let's go back to the normal mode. So, assistance systems here. Let's take a look right here. We can activate them on the steering wheel. I really like that. They have real buttons on the steering wheel. So easy to set that. Also with the active lane keeping assist. Let's see how well the car does that. Yeah, so far so smooth. Now next to a truck, I'm just, I'm keeping my hands on the steering wheel. Yeah, I also have to. Gives me the warning. But so far, pretty good. Also distance in the car in front of me is being kept. As for the sound, when you are in the pure EV mode and you're driving in the city and you have, it's also hardly audible on camera, but that's why I'm telling you now. So pure EV mode in the city, low speed, and you don't have any music running, then the car tends to give you some strange sounds, you know that maybe, but then you don't hear them at higher speeds anymore. Yeah, here, especially in these combinations, when you're getting off the motorway, there you feel it doesn't really keep up with, as for the sportiness with the BMW, but the premium feel is definitely there. Customers have had problems with the plug-in hybrid drivetrain here especially, so that might also be the thing because it's their first plug-in hybrid they're doing. Will be the second one with the MX-30 coming up, with the rotary engine in combination. Yeah, but I think that's always the thing when it starts, when something all new is starting, but it also seems that they can fix something. So I do have a lot of fun driving it, especially in the sport mode. But here in the normal mode, you can also take care of the boost. It always just depends if you pin the throttle like here, then you also have a good boost. It takes a little bit longer just, when you're in the sport mode, then you have this preload, the car's already a gear lower and so on. And what you can also do, you can go to the pure EV mode. That is the one of road warning. Yeah, sometimes I'm not very precise here with all the white lines. So here in the pure EV mode, it also shows me then, gives me a different graphic. And you cannot drive the maximum speed with it, but let's just test it right here once again when we get to the motorway. Of course, I try not to accelerate too hard, because when you accelerate too hard, pin it down, then it will also go into the combustion engine mode. But you can see actually then on the accelerator, let's see here, yeah, when I keep it like this, then I can actually keep it in the electric mode. Yeah, the problem is just then, when you want to have a good acceleration on the motorway, that's not quick enough actually. But here, now when you are at speed, that works well. So I keep it basically, there's like a threshold in the instruments I can see. Very interesting. Let's see how quick we can drive in the pure electric mode. Still keep on accelerating. Still going. 140. Yeah, that's it. So 140 is the maximum pure electric speed, and if I want to accelerate any further, then I would need to push the throttle a little bit further. Even there's like this threshold, still a threshold. Have to hit it harder. Oh wow, I have to really pin it through. So pin all the way, pedal to the metal, and then I can drive faster than 140 kilometers an hour. So nevertheless, it was an impressive driving party with the Mazda CX-60 today, with the focus on German Autobahn driving. So is the X3 still ahead? What can it do better, or is it maybe worse in any aspect? Let's find out. Alright, so what we did now is We just switched the cameras, we parked the car next to each other, directly switched the cameras, hopped into the X3 to get the most authentic experience. Sport mode with the X3, and let's also accelerate from 50 kilometers an hour with the power of both drivetrains. Let's go. $150, so maybe a little bit slower just. Whoa, that's way more silent indeed. 170 kilometers an hour. Yeah, maybe the Mazda's a little bit quicker from the get-go because more electric boost. And here 180 kilometers an hour. Just cut it here. And also the Mazda has 2.5 liters of displacement, what I like actually. But especially at higher speeds, the BMW is so much more silent, so the noise insulation is way better indeed. Didn't believe that it's so notable indeed. Wow. Of course, it more plays a role when you drive really, really fast. The slower you drive, the less it actually plays a role. Steering, I think, is both in good ones. Is good in both. Is good in both vehicles. Maybe even the Mazda is a little bit better there. Yeah, I think so, because here the BMW gives me a little bit too much play in the low degree angle. So I feel the steering is a little bit more natural in the feeling in the Mazda. Suspension is definitely better in the BMW. So when I'm going here left and right, it's not that the Mazda did that in any bad way or something, but this suspension here just gives me a more connected feeling to the vehicle without being less comfortable at all. So both are equipped with 20-inch wheels as well. It's an old Mercedes SLK or AMG version even. Let's go to the left again. So yeah, I also feel pretty much connected with the BMW. You feel it has some kind of a sportier approach. Seats is also a big difference indeed. Here the Sensation material is just softer in the BMW, and also the side bolsters, they are on the one hand softer and more comfortable, but then again they enclose you a little bit better, so they hold you better tight in the corner. When we soon do that motorway switch again, we will probably feel that even more. So it's very interesting that they play in the very same segment. They also more or less share the same wheelbase, the X3 and the Mazda CX60. Again, the other Mazdas, not such a large difference then when you think about the CX70, especially in the US, then also the 80 and 90 models. Here one more time to the right. Which vehicle does transport more driving fun? I mean, they're both fun, definitely, but I think the X3, because you feel a bit more connected with the suspension and also with the seats. That's what I like better with the BMW. Steering I indeed like better with the Mazda. Yeah, so that's indeed a close battle. The faster you drive, the more silent the X3 is, that's for sure. Then again, always keeping in mind, is that worth 20,000 euros more? Maybe your wallet can tell you that. And of course, thinking about a leasing rate, for example, that is always also different when you think about these leasing rates. Check at the concise dealer offering, of course. And there's another thought behind it. The CX60 is the same price than the BMW X1, where we recently also had the test. It's also interesting. Let's go back to the normal hybrid mode, and also the adaptive suspension is a little bit softer. Sound is a little bit more drawn back. I feel that the sound in the Mazda was a little bit more extreme from this sound actuation. That's, I think, a matter of preference. I like the turning indicator sound more with the BMW. It's more subtle. In the Mazda, it's too much, just, you know. I think it's this whole theme about this vehicle, the Mazda CX60. All the sounds you feel and hear are just louder than in the BMW X3. So also the sounds that the car makes when you activate or deactivate something. Overall, you feel, especially at lower speeds, by the way, that this drivetrain here of the BMW is a little bit more sophisticated. Talked about it in the CX60. Yes, they already fixed some things or improved some things, but you still feel somewhat that the CX60 didn't have the same development time or the experience like the BMW X3 has, and you feel that. So I did experience some situation in comparison when slower driving, that there was like some stumbling, I would say, maybe from the CX60 when switching gears or something, and you make like this. In the BMW X1, some people actually also observe that, but you do not have that in the BMW X3. So the transmission is definitely superior here in the X3, both if you compare it to the X1 and the Mazda CX60. Now here in the corner, so remember, Leah was shaken up quite well in the CX60, and now it seems way calmer, and she seems pretty relaxed here. And yeah, that was really relaxed, this, also a lot of fun. So especially for the passengers with these seats here, they just keep you tighter actually in the seat. So a better experience than in the X3. Let's once again go to the sport mode when we accelerate out of this corner. Here we go. One more time. German Autobahn. Unlimited speed, especially today. Now it's already getting a little bit 90-ish. Left lane. That was the fierce bump. We also noticed that in the X3, but it wasn't. What is this? It wasn't shaking up the vehicle as much here than in the X3. So also this bump test. Yeah, this adaptive suspension is just more forgiving when there is uneven road. So there you do feel a difference. And it is really interesting because when you look at the car statically from the exterior and the interior, you might think like, hey, am I really going to pay more money for the BMW? Is that even justified? And Mazda has done such a good job there in most respects. Still no good high trim alternatives to animal skin. That's one thing I do criticize. But the driving aspect is indeed where there is still the largest gap between BMW and Mazda. And that's also nothing you can maybe like judge on the basis of, hey, Mazda has done a bad job there. Not at all. It's just that the difference is still there. And it's also no problem because the BMW still has the focus of transporting more driving fun and driving feeling. There, once again, when you want to stick with Mazda and pay less money, get the Mazda CX-5. That one delivers more driving fun. The CX-60 does not have this sporty emphasis. And no, it cannot keep up with the BMW X3 in the sophisticated driving feeling and this combination of comfort and sportiness. What has been achieved by Mazda is that we do this comparison and compare Mazda and BMW, which would have been unthinkable a couple of years ago. So this is a huge achievement, but you still have to say, in driving, the BMW X3 here still owns the Mazda CX60. But what does it mean for the complete comparison when you also take the pricing into account? Which one would I take home? Which one would you take home? Tell me in the comments. As for pricing, the Mazda as it stands right here, all the bells and whistles, 63,000 euros. The BMW X3, 80,000 euros. So there's like a 17,000 euros or dollars difference. Quite substantial indeed. What does the BMW still deliver more? Exterior-wise, I think both are beautiful, especially in the front. In the rear, however, I do prefer the BMW, just has a more angular German look, you know what I mean? But that's actually, I think, just a matter of personal preference. As for the interior looks, I do actually prefer the Mazda. Just so cool to look at it. Especially, I love the bright interior, actually. A little bit more attention to detail, more, more love in the whole interior design. However, from the build quality, it starts already at the doors, when you open them, close them, like the premium feeling. The Mazda has moved up towards premium now, but you still get a little bit more from the BMW when you touch things, when you close things, open things. So that is still better with the BMW, I feel. A crucial point is the seating. The seat itself here, the Sensation material, is just softer with the BMW. The animal skin and the Mazda is really stiff. And the seat here also hardly gives you any side support. And have experienced that myself. Also talked to some other drivers. When driving this car, you get low back fatigue. And I think the reason is you always have to work against the G-forces without the seat supporting you. So long term, even more comfort than in the X3. I think Mazda has to fix something with the seats there, especially because in the CX-5, it's, for example, way better. Kind of interesting. And of course, they do not offer animal skin alternatives in high trim, whereas that's a big topic now, meanwhile, with BMW. Legroom, yeah, it's way less in the CX60, and also the seats don't really fold flat because of that, unless you push them all the way to the front, which doesn't make any sense. But then again, there's more trunk space in the CX60, so that's just a question then what is more important to you. Driving-wise, there was a notable difference. The Mazda also drives very well. But the thing is that the BMW delivers more sportiness, that's the first thing, and also just feels more refined from the whole drivetrain. Here, when you have like transmission things or transition between the EV and the ICE mode, it just doesn't feel fully developed with the Mazda, especially in the plug-in hybrid drivetrain. It will be better with the pure petrol or pure diesel engine. The BMW just feels so much more evolved and derived, and you have like all that experience. So I think, especially in driving, it just feels more perfect. Yes, once again, you have to take the price difference in mind. Really happy with the Mazda overall and the way they have come to, and that we actually do this comparison here. That's already an award for them. But the BMW does still deliver more, and it has nothing to do with me being born in Germany. I explained it all very well. I have no German bias. I have no interest in selling or promoting German cars. We often have other manufacturers, Korea or even lately also Chinese vehicles, where I say what is good and what is bad. So I don't favor any brand in our review. It's just the thing, the BMW X3 is still the better vehicle, and that's why I would still pick it. Once again, if the money of course allows it. And then it becomes interesting because the BMW X1 is the very same price as the Mazda CX60. Outside is shorter, but on the interior it doesn't offer less space. So that might be also an interesting thing for you to consider. If you say, hey, I want the BMW, but I don't want to pay the price for the X3, the X1 can also be a solution. And we have an X1 versus X3 comparison, or more content to the CX60.